Woo, we got a hot one today, boys. Hey, welcome back to Great Scott Gaming. Everyone knows that scene in The Hobbit where Bard snipes Smaug. I was reminded of this scene while watching a video the other day on the channel called History of the Ages. I also had a Dungeons & Dragons meetup with some friends the following day, and it had me questioning if you can truly one-shot a red dragon in D&D. I'm going to be quickly looking at the history of Smaug and Bard the Bowman to adapt to the official 5e rules to see if this is even possible. Lastly, I'm going to make it as close to the scene in the book and movie. Let's get into it. So it said in The Hobbit that Smaug is the last dragon. It doesn't mention his birth date, but does mention that he was very young and half-grown when he conquered the Lonely Mountain. This is the place where you first see him in the movie and where he keeps his hoards of treasures. During The Hobbit, when Bilbo first sees him, Smaug states he is now old and strong since he first took over the Dwarven stronghold on the mountain. It is also stated that he ruled for 177 years before his demise. In the Tolkien universe, Smaug's growth is almost identical to a dragon's growth and maturity in the Dungeons & Dragons universe. Dragons in both these universes take around 100 years to reach adulthood, so we can use a stat block for a typical red dragon in D&D since it's comparable. As for Smaug's Slayer, Bard the Bowman, the most important question about him is where does he lie in terms of class within D&D? I mean, Bard and Bowman are both in the name, but that doesn't mean he's either. He got the name Bowman because he was captain of a company of town archers, by the way. When looking at his actual character, he seems to be a tall, dark, courageous, and fierce person, so he's definitely not Bard-like. Looking at the place where he's from, Lake Town, it's a rundown, shady place where corruption is high. I mean, you see a bunch of townspeople not even bat an eye when an unknown clan of dwarves beat up a group of guards. Also, Bard's mannerisms match this town's demeanor. He is seen to be spying and stepping out of the shadows in the midst of conversations. To get the dwarves into Lake Town, Bard covered them up with fish inside barrels in one scene, and in another, gave the dwarves disguises. Lastly, he's seen to have a silver tongue getting him out of tough situations. All this leads me to believe he's more roguelike than ranger or fighter, and he doesn't seem to possess any obvious magical properties, so that rules him out from other magical Dungeons & Dragons classes. So the rogue class. It has many subclasses, but the one I think fits him the best is the assassination subclass. Let me explain. Again, since Bard doesn't have any obvious magic in his arsenal, this class seems to make the most sense, especially since he's so deadly with both a bow and a sword, surprising the most mighty foes with just a single strike. So now that we identified where our characters can fit within the D&D 5e rules, can the scene from The Hobbit where Bard one-shot Smaug actually happen? Well, yes, depending on the source material though, you reference from Lord of the Rings. Let me show you how and what I mean. As stated earlier, the easiest to calculate is Smaug since we will just go based off the adult Red Dragon stat block and the 5th edition D&D Monsters Manual. So as you can see, Bard needs to beat 256 hit points. Red Dragons have no immunities besides fire, so we're not going to look at that, and we aren't going to look at the armor class because Bard obviously hits Smaug here. For Bard, we have to do our best in building him a fully fleshed out character in the boundaries of his on-screen character, meaning I can't just give him every magic item in the book to fit my narrative. I also can't give him a spell like Wish where he could just snap Smaug out of reality. Also, I'll be assuming that Bard rolled the perfect set of dice, maxing out his damage for this encounter. Remember, we want to match this scene as close to the book and movie as possible. Bard is known for his great yew bow and his exceptional bow skills as I mentioned earlier. Now with what Tolkien has stated in his books, it doesn't seem like Bard's bow was of any magical properties, since yew was used by other human civilizations regularly. For example, in Chapter 6 of The Hobbit, it states, "The Lord of the Eagles would not take them anywhere near where man lived. They would shoot at us with their great bows of yew." Unfortunately, that means we'll just have to give him the stats for a regular longbow for 1d8 damage. Plus, it's broken by the time he actually gives the killing blow to Smaug in the movie. In the book, it's different. I'm also going to assume that he has his dexterity stat maxed out since he's also so accurate with that bow, almost elvish good. This would give him a +5 to hit and a damage to dragon as well, leaving us with a total of 13 damage thus far. In the book, it is also mentioned that the last arrow he shoots is called the Black Arrow. This arrow was specifically forged by Thror, who was the king under the Lonely Mountain before its fall. The item that best fits us in the Dungeons & Dragons universe would be the Arrow of Slaying, which we can assume is specifically used to slay dragons. Meaning if a creature belongs to the type, race, or group associated with the Arrow of Slaying, which Smaug does, it takes damage from the arrow. The creature must make a DC 17 Constitution saving throw, taking an extra 6d10 piercing damage. So now we have a total of 73 damage from the 60 hit points this arrow does alone. At this moment is where the book and movie adaptation greatly differ. In the book, Smaug is busy pillaging the town and not paying attention to Bard, meaning you can get both your sneak damage and your death strike ability at 17th level. Again, we're going based off the assassin subclass for rogue. In the movie, Smaug sees both Bard and his son and decides to charge at him, potentially only giving you the sneak attack damage if you consider Bard being on the tower as giving him height advantage. Why does this matter, you might be asking? Well, the rogue class and assassin subclass I just mentioned needs to either be stealthy and or have advantage to get you those crazy damage rolls. Let's just assume we are talking about the book, since in all honesty, the movie Bard seems more on equal ground with Smaug than actually having height advantage, meaning he would get no extra damage on this. If you calculate the damage of the sneak attack for a level 17 assassin, it would be 96, meaning we would get 54 damage, making the total damage so far 127. We can assume Bard critical hits Smaug as well, since he was able to shoot the one chink in Smaug's armor, doubling all attack die, giving us 244 damage thus far. Lastly, with Death Strike, you again double the total damage dice, giving you 488 damage, proving Bard could definitely one-shot Smaug. Even without the sneak attack, you would still be able to dish out 282 damage, still killing an adult red dragon, which Smaug is, in one shot. Luckily for Bard, Smaug was not any older, or he would not have been able to one-shot him with that 488 damage. So what did you think? Are there any other ways you can think of where Bard could one-shot Smaug? What other classes and characters do you think could also one-shot Smaug? If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to throw it a like and subscribe for similar videos like this. Stay safe out there in these crazy times. Peace out.